music, please? Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. We have a full array of public employees and private sector individuals who are assembled with us. We'll do our best to answer any questions that you might have, but let me start by saying many of you are reporting a lot of information. We're getting a lot of information from you and other sources. We're not going to try to speculate on much of the detail. I think this will evolve in the course of the evening, so let us be very, very careful, especially here in Philadelphia. We're not in Boston, so let us not speculate about things that are going on in real time in Boston. Let me thank Police Commissioner Ramsey, Deputy Mayor Gillison, Deputy Mayor Rich Negrin, Deputy Police Commissioner Rich Ross, Public Safety Director Mike Resnick, City Representative and Director of Communications Desiree Peterkin-Bell, Giselle Jones, who is our Special Events Coordinator at the Managing Director's Office, Sue Lawson, Patrick Morgan, and Joe Callan from the Department of Parks and Recreation. Jeff Knuppel, Deputy General Manager of Operations at SEPTA, Thomas Nestel III, Chief of Police at SEPTA, Inspector Maureen Powers from Amtrak Police Department, and John Paul Bruno, who is the Deputy Director for Operations at the Office of Emergency Management. All of these leaders have come together. We've been in constant communication throughout the course of the day. We will tell you the things that we can share, and then we'll deal with your questions. First and foremost, on behalf of all the citizens of the City of Philadelphia and folks in the region, our thoughts and our prayers go out to the victims and the families and the entire city of Boston. My very good friend, Mayor Tom Menino, and our good friend Governor Deval Patrick are dealing with this situation, of course, at both the local and state level. I wish both of them the best under these very trying times and circumstances. I know that they're public servants in the City of Boston and, of course, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Those teams of public servants are dealing with this terrible tragedy in the City of Boston. As I mentioned earlier, there is still a lot to know about this particular incident and series of events. Reports continue to roll in, and as again I mentioned, all of you in the news media are making similar reports, and we're monitoring national news media. Of course, as a city government, we have some additional access to information through law enforcement channels. We can just, I think, all agree that there are various reports about numerous devices, possibly explosions, fires. Some may be connected to this incident, and some others may not. At this time, there are no specific threats or threat incidents in Philadelphia. But of course, we are taking the necessary precautions, and I'll talk in limited detail about those responses. And again, I know that you will all be sensitive in understanding that I will not be sharing every possible detail of our response here in Philadelphia. Like many other East Coast cities, of course, Philadelphia is at a heightened level of security at this point. We, of course, have extended hours and tours of duty for personnel not only in Center City, but we are monitoring actively a variety of key and historic locations in our city. We'll make deployment of personnel decisions in real time based on reports or other events that we may anticipate. The Philadelphia Police Department is coordinating actively with SEPTA, Amtrak, and our Parks and Recreation Department and the National Park Service. And they are also all on heightened alert. We're utilizing all tools, assets, and resources, of course, such as video surveillance and other assets that we have. Given that this was the Boston Marathon, we, of course, have a major race coming up in Philadelphia very shortly, the Independence Blue Cross Broad Street Run, which is on Sunday, May 5th. In light of today's events in Boston, let me assure you that we will step up our security efforts and response for the Boston Marathon, and I'm grateful to Dan Hilferty and Chris Cashman from Independence Blue Cross for their support and coordination. Chris Cashman is here. Runners and spectators will, in fact, see a much more visible security presence on race day for the Broad Street Run to make sure that our runners and spectators are safe. There are many, many things that the public can do, and I want to commend many members of the public who are already doing those things. You can help us a great deal. As we always talk about, if you see something, say something. If you think you might be seeing something and don't fully understand what you think you're seeing, it's better to err on the side of caution. Call 911, call 311, call the Philadelphia Police Department's tip line, 215-686-8477. Again, 911, 311, or the Philadelphia Police Department tip line, 215-686-8477. Information will be received and shared via the Delaware Valley Intelligence Center, also known as the DIVIC. They will ensure that all law enforcement agencies in the entire region have current, accurate information and that they're coordinating fully their activities. Our Homeland Security Unit, Chief Inspector Sullivan and his team, again, are key players and partners in this regard. And lastly, you of course know that President Obama has received a direct intelligence briefing from FBI Director Mueller and Secretary of Homeland Security Janet Napolitano. Police Commissioner Ramsey has been in touch with local federal authorities as well. With that, either I or any of the folks who are assembled, we will try to answer any questions that you might have. Dave?
Was there any thought ever given to perhaps canceling the Broad Street Run? I mean, on the one hand, you don't want to react to these things because that's what terrorists want you to do, but on the other hand, you have public safety to keep in mind.
Again, let us be very, very careful and mindful about the language that we use. I'm not sure at 5-something, whatever time it is right now, for an incident that took place about maybe a little less than 3 hours ago. I don't even know that anyone knows who was responsible for this. I certainly don't know at the moment, so I don't want to start using characteristic language about who may have done what. So I don't know at the moment, as we stand here, whether it was a quote-unquote terrorist, as the term is normally used. But obviously someone has done something, or some group of people have done something. We've not had a conversation, given that this incident is about 3 hours old, as to whether or not we should cancel a race that is taking place, I think, in 2 to 3 weeks. We don't know enough about the incident, what happened, how it happened, or anything else to get into that level of detail. And so at the moment, we're expecting that the Broad Street Run will happen. We will also take necessary precautions and learn from whatever it is that has gone on in Boston in terms of the actual incident. Where were these devices placed? Possibly, hopefully we will know who did what, how they got there, and all of those kinds of details, and then we'll make the right and appropriate and safe decision for that particular event or any other event that's scheduled in the upcoming weeks here in Philadelphia.
Mayor, can you talk about some of the concerns that your office might have received from either runners or vendors or people that are taking part in this event a few weeks from now?
Again, this is an incident that was less than 3 hours old. We have no expressions of anything from anyone at the moment. I think literally people are kind of glued to television, computer, radio, however it is people get their news, just trying to understand what has happened. What is this about? So I don't think there's been enough time, literally, for folks to have any concern other than the main concern at the moment should be that the latest report that I have is that 2 people have lost their lives and at least 100 folks have been injured in this particular incident. So let's not try to get too far ahead of ourselves at the moment. We have Americans in Boston who have been killed or injured. Let's try to keep our focus for the moment on that. I'm sure through the course of numerous news cycles into tonight and tomorrow, there'll be more analysis and we'll have a lot more information from federal, state, and local authorities in Boston and the Boston area as to what this is really all about. For the moment, our main focus is something has happened to one of our American cities, and that every city in America will have a response to this particular situation in real time, right at the moment, and then use the information that we get and glean from this as to how we proceed in the next 24, 48, 72 hours.
Can you talk a little bit about just the difficulty of coordinating aspect?
I have still not figured out how to listen to two questions completely at the same time. I think my best reassurance is that folks should look right over my shoulder and see the array of professionals who are assembled here and many others who are in a variety of other locations. You will see some things as members of the public that we're doing. You will not see some other things as members of the public that we were doing because we don't want people to see those particular things. I can assure you that from Commissioner Ramsey to SEPTA Police to folks over at the Delaware Valley Intelligence Center, our coordination with federal authorities, that we will do everything possible to ensure the safety of our citizens. We have a variety of protocols already in place and established when we have an incident, whether in the city, nearby the city, or somewhere else in the United States of America, and those protocols have already been activated.
Large public gatherings are a special challenge, such as the Boston Marathon. We have Made in America coming up this summer. We have a rather large 4th of July celebration. Are you going to be evaluating those events as well in the days and weeks ahead? Is there anything different that you can foresee right now?
Well, first, let me assure you that, and you know, we've been very fortunate, and we can knock on wood or whatever else we might want to knock on. The safety that we've experienced with those major events is not a coincidence. It comes from a significant amount of weeks, months, and almost a year-long from event to event planning process. Again, many of the things that we do for those events you will see. Many of the things that we do for those events you'll never see. And one of the reasons they're so safe is because of the expertise, again, of the folks who are up here, the level of planning, the level of coordination, our ability to respond to a particular incident in real time and in a rapid fashion is a testament to the men and women who do that planning. Anytime there is some subsequent incident, whether here in this city or in this particular case in Boston, always causes us, when we get that kind of information, to do a debrief and an incident report. How does that circumstance match up with the things that we do for our particular incidents? And you learn something. Even in the situations where, quote unquote, nothing has happened, you always learn something from every event, and we always are trying to figure out how to do the next one better than the last one, even if nothing happens. So, of course, we're going to use whatever comes out of this tragedy to make sure that our folks are that much more safe.
Mayor, can you talk about what more you might need from federal partners in day-to-day challenges of addressing security?
We're in a situation where we've had a tragic event take place to the north of us a little less than 3 hours ago. We don't know that much about what has happened, and therefore it's a little difficult to ask for specific resources or support other than what those agencies already do. I mean, again, you know, the FBI is fully engaged, Homeland Security fully engaged. They have their own protocols and then coordinate with us about those things. So we're doing what we do when we have incidents. There's constant training. There's constant planning that takes place. We understand in the 21st century, coming off of certainly what happened on 9/11, that we're constantly on guard, constantly ready, constantly anticipating that something could happen. And obviously it's a great you know, day-to-day experience when virtually nothing happens. But again, as I responded to Dave, that's not a coincidence. That's not luck. That's not by happenstance. It's because we know what we're doing, and we have the personnel to get things done. We may not be able to prevent every possible tragedy, like a situation in Boston. This is a constant effort that trying to stay a step, a half a step, 2 steps ahead of whatever next insane thing that some individual or some group might want to do. But you can't always anticipate what someone is going to be up to. You can do your best to plan for the known and the unknown, and then let those scenarios play themselves out.
Mayor, how many runners are expected for the Broad Street Run?
I think it's 30 plus. It's now 40. It was 30 last year. I'm sorry. Yeah, about 40,000 for the Broad Street Run. That was 30-something last year. Last question. What do you got? Were you trying to ask another question? You're good? Okay. Anybody else? Thanks a lot. Thanks. Give me the first part of your question.
Any resources from Philadelphia going up there to assist? Has any request come in from us also? Is there anything special that you can offer?
I don't think we've received a request, but as you know, the most, I guess, the most recent tragedy that we've experienced was maybe Hurricane Sandy. You know that we sent folks to locales up there again after people, really understood. I mean, obviously we knew it was a hurricane, but you have to assess, the damage. Where do you best need people, et cetera, et cetera. We're nowhere near that at the moment. I mean, the folks in Boston are literally still trying to figure out what happened. Is there more stuff out there? Unfortunately, the injury count continues to go up, and so I think that you have a dual focus at least going on in Boston. Deal with the folks who are injured, make sure that there is no one else, and what in the world happened here, and that will play itself out over the next, as I said, 24 to 48 hours. If there is a need, if there is a call, we're Americans, we respond, and we'll do everything we can to not only protect our city, but help another city in need. Thanks.